Now, we're going to talk about plant growth regulators. These are the items in a plant that regulate the plant's growth. The main regulators that regulate the plant growth are phytohormones. Am I going to offend anybody here if I talk about plant hormones? Is it okay? Okay, thank you. The first thing I want to mention is this. Plants grow from the roots up. Plants die from the roots up. Plants never die from the tops down. Any questions? If you have any questions anytime, just raise your hand. Don't worry about interrupting me, okay? I'm glad to see you as a White Sox fan. I was raised in northwest of Chicago. I was a White Sox fan. See, you don't remember it, but in Comiskey Park, the Chicago Cardinals played. And we were always against the Bears. They moved to St. Louis and they moved to Arizona. The roots have their own hormone production that regulates the top of the plant growth. The hormones in the roots are made at the meristematic root tissue. The new roots are not yet cells. So all the roots here don't make no difference. It's the new cells that's being developed at the edge of the roots that make the difference. So the roots of our soybean plants can look beautiful all year long. But if the root tips stop growing, the hormone balance of the roots stop, and the plant eventually dies. It's that simple. The major hormone that's produced by the roots is called cytokinin. Got that? We're going to refer to it as the husband or the man. Okay? He's produced at the roots, he travels up the plant. The major hormone that's produced by the growing tips of the plant, the new tissue, are called auxins. Everywhere there's new tissue, not in the old leaves, just the new leaves. Right here. Produce auxin. We're going to refer to these as the wives or the women that move down the plant. Now we're starting something that's interesting, right? The men that move up to get the women that move down to get the men. And everywhere they meet and make love, along any place in this plant, they make babies. They make baby cells. So all cells in this plant are grown or developed by the men who move from the top and the women that come from the bottom. When they meet, they make baby cells. The growth of this plant is determined by the number of cells and number of babies that this plant has. The size of the roots, number of babies' root cells. The size of the stems, the number of baby stem cells. The size of the leaves, the number of leaf cells. The size of the flowers, the size of the pods, the number of cells. So the size of this plant, the structure of the plant, the robustness of this plant depends upon the amount of men that are made down here, the amount of women that are made up here. It's that simple. That's how you regulate plant growth. It's not nutrients. Nutrients don't regulate plant growth. Nutrients feed the cells so they can develop. Nutrients feed the chemistry so the chemistry can work. But the number of cells and how the plant grows is regulated by the number of men produced here, the number of women produced here. Any questions? Have you ever been told that before? Isn't it simple? You know what produces babies. It takes men's germ and women's eggs, right? No different with a plant. Why don't we know this? Why hasn't anybody told us this? I can't answer your question. The only thing I can tell you, hormones were first studied back in the 1970s to any extent. It's only been the last 10 years that there's been a lot of published work on it, because it's only been the last 10 years that the Arabidopsis has been genome mapped, so you can read the genes and tell how many women are produced, how they're transported, how many men are produced, how they're transported, by studying the genes in this genome map plant. Now, I have 10 PhDs working for me. 4 of them work with these genome plants. So we can tell with different treatments how they affect the men and the women. So we're into the science. My other PhDs work on other things, such as nitrogen use efficiency, phosphate use efficiency, water use efficiency, soil moisture use efficiency, and these type of things. I have a guy that works upon how sugar is transferred from the leaf to the seed, from the leaf to the roots. Sugar transfer is very important. So we're studying all these different aspects of how a plant functions. Every one of the things I mentioned to you is determined by the hormones and how the hormones work. Everything. Sugar transfer, moisture use, nutrient use, everything. You had a question? So far, so good. Do you believe me? Is it possible? Okay, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I came all the way from Houston to try and cause you to think. If I can cause you to think, you'll come to your own conclusions. It's your money, it's your farm, you're the producer. I can only tell you what I think. It's up to you to make the choice, okay? Now, always, the soybean plant has more than enough women. Always. She produces so many women, it's unbelievable. The problem is we have to stop her from moving too fast down to over attack the men, because the men will get heart attacks. So we have to control what the scientists call IAA transport, the transport of women. Because if they come down a plant too fast, we won't have any branching. If they come down too fast, we won't have any flower set. If they come down too fast, they'll kill the roots. So the first thing we learn is we have to produce men, we have to produce women, we have to stop those women from coming down in the early stages of growth and attacking our men. That's simple enough, isn't it? Now with soybeans, we want enough women to come down early to make nodules, then we want to stop them from coming down. It takes a lot of women to make nodules, but you don't have a lot of root growth then. Then we stop the women from coming down, the nodules are there, they start proliferating, and we start the roots to grow. Simple? So we treat the seed to make the women come down, to get the nodules, then we stop the women from coming down. Got it? You look like you question me. Am I losing anybody? I don't want to. I want to make it so simple that you understand it, you go home and think about it. Okay. As a plant goes through its vegetative stage of growth, it's important that the men and the women, the husband and wife, grow a plant that has a lot of muscle, a lot of bones, builds a lot of energy, getting ready for that plant to go into its reproductive stage of growth. That soybean plant is no different than a young girl growing. In her adolescent growth stage, that young girl has to build her bone structure, her muscle structure, and energy in her body to prepare her to enter her stage of ovulation. If a woman exercises a lot, is a distance runner or trains exercises and overstimulates her body, she won't go into her flowering period. She won't enter her menstrual cycle as quick. You don't want to do that to a plant. We want to keep a plant from overstimulating herself. We want to control the oxygen stress so that it can flower on time. Okay? Got that? Why does that happen? Because in all of our bodies, after we're born, there's an organ that develops here called a thymus. It's made out of the bone marrow of our bodies, and it's in the thymus that most of the hormones in our body is generated. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. It's in the thymus where all of our T cells are formed to protect our body against diseases. Right here is where it's at. When a girl gets to her age of ovulation, the boys get to their stage of ejaculation, the thymus stops growing. The maximum amount of energy potential is already determined in your body. From then on, as you go through your reproductive stage of your life, the thymus starts shrinking, slowly at first, then at a greater rate and a greater rate, to the time you get to be about 50, menopause starts in a woman, and you men are a little bit stronger later on, but eventually it gets to you too, right? You start dying. The first thing a woman loses is her muscle, because she needs to get the energy out of her muscle to continue life. The second thing she loses is bone, because that's the next place energy is stored. The last thing a woman loses is fat, because there's no energy in fat. And then she dies. That's the cycle of a person. This is the cycle of your soybean plant. It builds its energy before the flowering period and continues building energy during the early flowering period. So when they tell you that the growth of the plant now is not that important, it's wrong. Because it's an energy building time for this plant to store energy for future flowering. It's just like a girl. You don't see it because the leaves don't turn brown. So, oh, that's okay. If I get a rain, the flowers that are on there are going to come and we're going to still make a good yield. Yes, if you're interested in 40 bushel. If you're interested in 80 bushel, it ain't going to happen. Because you already lost too much energy before the flowering period started. You can't afford to lose energy in a growing plant, just like you can't afford to lose energy in a growing girl in her adolescent growth stage, because her body will not bear as many babies if she's not weak, if her body doesn't store energy. Because as a woman has more babies, energy is taken out of her body. And always, in a woman, the earlier fetus is always the most perfect fetus. The later fetus is always the most imperfect fetus. On a soybean plant, the early seed are always the most perfect pods and seed. The later seeds are always the less perfect pods or seed. Right? Right? So you have to build energy in the soybean plant and maintain energy as long as you can if you're going to get the maximum yield. No? You okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now.
I'm a sixth kid now. You got me worried. Go ahead.
Okay, now. We said that the plant grows from roots up. Plants die from roots up. So evidently these men are important. Okay? We always have an excess of women. Our big problem is stopping these women to come down and gang up on the men. We can do that. But our biggest single problem is, how do we keep these roots producing men? How do we keep these women from screaming and raising hell in the top? When our soul dries out, we stop producing men. We stop having new meristematic tissue on our roots. We need moisture to do that. The plant's not getting enough moisture. We need more moisture. We need more men. Because if we can keep getting men, this hot temperature ain't gonna hurt us. This drought is not gonna hurt us. As long as the roots keep producing men, the women will be satisfied and that plant will continue to grow more or less perfect. But we gotta keep the men producing. Keep the men satisfying the women. That's our project for this morning. How are we gonna do it? What are we gonna do? What's made in the roots? You think we can spray the men on the foliage to satisfy the women? You think it's possible? Come on.
Sounds good. What's the problem?
Huh?
It sounds good. What's the problem?
So it sounds good. If you use Stoller's product, it'd be called Excite. It's a cytokine. But is it possible? That's a question I ask. Can you feed men to the women by spraying it on the foliage if you're not producing enough in the roots? I see a yes here. I see I don't know here. Go on. Who else? Miss, what do you think? Either of you.
No, I work for Stoller, so I'll stay
Okay.
on.
What do you think? You don't know. Yes, you can. It's simple. All you have to do is give the women men. They don't need to get it from the roots if you spray it on the foliage. You have to know how much men to spray. How often do you need to spray the men to keep the women happy? That's a perfect solution. Or you can cause the roots to make more men. How in the world are they going to do that with hot temperatures and no soil moisture? How are roots going to make more men if they don't have a lot of water and don't have the plant tissue cooled by the air conditioning system that takes to evaporate water out of the leaves? Because when the temperature gets hot, the soil moisture gets low, the leaf temperature rises, and the men shrink. The men shrink. When the temperature of the leaves rise, the men shrink. After Cialis. They shrink. Understand? They no longer can get the job done. Hot temperature. Men do not like to make love in hot temperature. Leaves will not make photosynthesis in hot temperature. Leaves will not transfer sugar in hot temperature. That's why you need soil moisture to run your air conditioning system to keep the leaves cool. Moisture from the soil is not needed for the plants. Moisture from the soil is needed to cool the leaves. Did you hear me correctly? Moisture from the soil is not needed for the metabolism of the plant. Moisture from the soil is needed to run the air conditioning so the leaves don't get hot. So all we need to do is to treat this plant so it can continue making photosynthesis in hot temperatures with hot leaves and transfer sugars in hot temperatures with hot leaves. We can get enough sugars throughout the plant and down to the roots so the roots don't need water. Because roots take sugars and make their own water through respiration. Roots take sugars and make their own oxygen through respiration. So if you get floods and keep sugars going down here, your plants won't die from a flood because they can make their own oxygen. If you get dry soil and keep sugars moving down here, the plants won't die because they can make their own water through respiration. You go home and tell your neighbors about this. That silly old man, that old goat from Houston, he comes up here and tells us that plants can make their own water. What a crock of crap that is, huh? I know you're not going to believe me, but I'm telling you what our research is showing. Our company research is showing this is possible. You can believe me or not. I'm not going to spend all my money to come up here from Houston to lie to you. Because you can use my product one time and stop. What have I gained? I need you to use it every year with enthusiasm. That's why I come here. I'm trying to build a company. All of these functions I told you about, increasing water use efficiency, increasing nitrogen use efficiency, increasing the physical properties of a plant, increasing the photosynthesis, increasing sugar transfer. Those are all hormonally related. There was plants are being bred to do, but the breeding is not coming through. The breeding is being destroyed by hot temperatures and low soil moisture. The characteristics that that plant is bred with is being destroyed by the environment. So the question is, can we fool Mother Nature? Can we do something about Mother Nature except praying? That's a decision y'all are going to have to make. Because unless you make this decision, you're not going to do anything. You're going to be sitting in the same chair next year and the year after that when stress conditions come. If this is what you want to do, so be it. But there's no need to allow this to happen. You can do something about it. Keep your roots growing, control the movement of the woman, and make sure that the plant continues making photosynthesis in this hot, dry weather condition. Keeps making sugar, grows normal. You can do it if you want to. Now here's something. We're talking about cell division. How important is it to keep the men and the women in balance? The diameter of the stem will predict the yield potential of a plant. Corn plant, soybean plant, any plant. The diameter of the stem will predict the potential yield of a plant. You believe that? And you can go throughout your field and measure your plants that are this tall. The ones with the largest diameter, put a flag. They're going to have the biggest ear, or the more pods. That's developed early. The difference in stem diameters is developed early, folks. There's no business of don't worry about your plants early. If it rains later, it's going to be okay. That's garbage. The potential yield of your plant is going to be determined by stem size, which is determined early. Okay, I'm going to show you two different treated plants. One treatment is a control. The other treatment is one of the Stoller treatments. Which one of those plants has the largest stem diameter? See the difference? See the difference? Same variety, planted side by side in the same field.
You say they both were treated or just this one?
This one's treated. This is the control. Can you fool Mother Nature? That's my question.
How much did you
Do what?
How much in yield did you pull?
Well, that would be determined. We don't have it harvest.
Maybe you would already.
I don't know what they're going to yield. Come on. I'm trying to get the Farm Journal to tell us, but they won't give us the data. But I have plots at the University of Illinois. We're going to get the data from them. applied to Iowa State, Missouri.
At what stage did you?
These are seed treated.
Okay.
Some of them, and they're treated at the V3 or V4 stage. Some of them are treated at V4 stage. Different times with different products. Because we're still developing the technology yet. Guys, I don't know 15% of what should be known. So I'm dumb yet, okay? I got a lot to learn. I'm just sharing with you the meager stuff I already know. But we're going to get better at this. I'm spending a lot of money on research. I got over 240 experiments at universities this year. Because I need to validate the work, because I know you guys aren't going to believe me. Maybe you'll believe the universities. And you shouldn't believe me, because I'm a commercial man. I'm just here to stimulate your thinking.
Stimulate us on when do you think you'll have it?
Huh?
When will you have a product?
We have some products now. They're very good. They're not the best we're going to have, but they're very good. They make people money.
Is seed treatment or contact?
Both. Right now, the sales of my company worldwide is $300 million. Out of that, 10% is in the USA. I travel all over the world. The biggest company I own is in Brazil. Why? Because the Brazilian farmers want to learn. The American farmers already know everything. I hate to say that, guys. I don't want to insult you. It's a problem I have with the universities. They know everything. This is why you guys are pissed off, because you're not getting more work from the universities. I'm trying to help. I'm going to be a member of your association. I'll show you courtesy, you show me courtesy. Together, we'll whip this thing. As long as you depend on universities, it ain't going to happen, guys. It ain't going to happen. They don't want to find solutions, because if they find solutions, their funds dry up. They want to keep researching this thing to keep money coming. They're human. They got families to feed and kids to educate. So don't come down on them. They're human. I have to find solutions if I'm going to make money. And my company's going to continue to grow. Any other questions right now? Yes.
The concept you're talking about here, you know, you say it's true with all plants. Are you, with what you're doing, is the majority of the work in specialty crops or in, because you know, you see some of that sometimes. We'll take concepts that are adapted into the nursery crops or in fruit crops and things like that, and then we'll adapt them to
That's an excellent question.
general, you know, grain crops.
Thank you, sir. That's an excellent question. As we've grown as a U.S. company by working with the fruit and vegetable people, not with the grain people, because they spray every week. We can administer these products in their normal spray program. Corn and soybean farmers, until the price got high enough, till ethanol came in, the value of the crops weren't high enough that we could convince them to spray like vegetable farmers would spray.
There was no incentive there.
Yeah, no incentive. So I just kind of laid off until the timing was right. I mean, I'm from this area of the country. My parents are from Goodfield and from Gridley, Illinois. So I wanted to come home. But until I had something that you corn and soybean people and wheat people would want to do, I was going to spend my time working, but it's more of an advantage. It's just practical. Now, we have yet to talk about another member of the family. We talked about the husbands, we talked about the wives. We haven't talked about the kids. The soybean seed or the corn seed. We haven't talked about the progeny. They have their own hormone rhythm. Okay? So the husbands have their hormone rhythm. The wives have their own hormone rhythm. Now come the seeds, the babies, they have their own hormone rhythm. Now the babies are going to start influencing the mothers, just like a regular baby influences the mother. See, when the fetus gets about 3.5 months old, it produces a hormone that causes the mother to get breast milk. See? That's the feedback of the hormones from the sibling on the mother. So not only do we have in the soybean family the husbands, the wives, now we got kids, many kids. And we have to cause them to live in harmony so none of them are selfish over the other members of the family. The husbands have to take care of the wives have to take care of the husbands and the babies. All in harmony. Where's your devil? What's going to ruin it? Mother Nature. The heat, the temperature, the shade. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. As much as the devil is going to ruin spirituality, Mother Nature is going to ruin the hormone balance of the family, of your plants. Now we're going to have to learn how to do something to protect these plants against Mother Nature, against heat, against moisture deficit, against shading. If we can reduce shade avoidance, we'll be able to plant thicker populations. You know that every northern corn plant has a little ear, don't you? Because the women move down to where it's shaded. Wherever the women gather, you have an ear started. So if you plant thick, and as your shade go up real fast, there's not enough women can collect at that node to help cause the baby ear. You keep all the women at top in the sunlight, dancing around. Okay, just think of it. It's the man's job, it's the root's job to gather the food, to make the hormones, to anchor the plant, and to do all the dirty work, live in the crap and all that, fight the bacteria. Why? To produce this beautiful woman. And the more beautiful he is, the harder that booger will work. He's crazy, just like the rest of us. He'll do anything to keep that woman beautiful. Then she starts having babies. Then she starts paying attention to the babies. And this guy says, holy cow, she don't care for me as much anymore. She just cares for the kids. I'm number 3 now, or number 4. I don't like this worth a damn. And eventually the guy dies. Roots die. The plant goes into senescence. The babies are left over to the next generation. Kind of a neat story, isn't it? Guys, we're hard workers. But women control us. Admit that, you're going to be further ahead in life. Don't fight it. It's bigger than both of you. In fact, women outlive you, just like the plant's top outlives the roots. That's why the women control all the wealth. They live 2 years longer than men, and all the wealth goes to women. The women control 70% of the wealth in the United States. Did you know that? You think you're smart? Shoot. Come on. Now, we have a challenge. We can overcome the challenge, but we're going to have to get into a habit of being able to treat the plant like we treat our animals. If it goes into stress, we have to treat the plant for conditions of stress. We have to pay attention to the plant and learn the plant. I ask many people, who do farmers believe the most of all the people they talk to? Is it the fertilizer dealer? Is it the university guy? Is it the consultant that they pay? Or is it the seed salesman? And consensus is the seed salesman. Why? Why do growers believe the seed salesman? Because he's the only guy that knows anything about the plants. Guys, you'll never progress in what you're trying to do until you understand that plant and what to do about it when that plant gets under stress. You're going to learn a new word. It's called epigenetics. Epigenetics, write it down. Epigenetics means increasing the genetics of a plant. increasing the normal genetics that the plant breeder breeds in the plant. Because a good corn plant has the potential of making 500 or 600 bushel, and we're making 200, 220. A soybean plant has the potential of making 250 bushel, and we're making 43. A wheat plant has the potential to make 250 bushel. 15 years ago, I met a boy in Scotland who made 250 bushel of wheat. 15 years ago. Yeah, the temperatures, nighttime temperatures are cool. If we can increase the plant's ability to express its genetics more powerfully than what it does in our environment, how much yield increase can we get from using the same variety? How is it that Kip Colliers can produce 160 bushel of soybeans per acre on the same variety we produce 43? Or 55, whatever. It's the same variety. If we're going to make money and increase monster yields, are we going to do it by the seed variety we buy, or how we treat that seed variety to increase its epigenetic potential? Fellas, we're paying all that money, $400 a bag for seed corn. This next year they say $700 or $800 a bag. We're paying all that money for our genetics, and we're not doing anything to protect the genetics. Why? Because we're trained to think about increasing yields per acre. The research people, increasing yields per acre. Our consultants, increasing yields per acre. We're not going to make any progress unless you can learn how to think about losing yields per acre. Because you're losing a lot more yields per acre than you'll ever increase. You're losing more yield per acre than you'll ever increase. You're losing more yield per acre than you'll ever increase. Do I need to say it again? Yield increase is bogus. It's just a notch above normal. What we're after is what's supernormal, not to lose any notch as that plant's grown out in that environment. We're going to take the environment away from how that plant grows. We're going to get the full potential of that variety. I hope I can live long enough. But that's my goal. That's what I think is possible. All you guys that want to cooperate with us and help us do demonstrations, I appreciate your help. We're not a Monsanto. We're not very big. We need all the help we can get. Okay? I'm willing to take on the gene splicers. I'm willing to take on the pesticide companies. Because if we increase the epigenetics so that all genes are expressed strongly, that we can get big yields, we won't need to treat with fungicides. We won't need to treat with insecticides. We won't have nematode problems. A plant has the genes to protect itself. It only loses its protection when the weather causes it to lose protection, right? At different stages of growth, under different weather conditions. That's when you have disease. That's when you have insects. But the plants have the ability to protect themselves against this. We have to get the ability that's in the plants to get them to express the ability.
Do you think the plant's got the ability to express that potential if it's grown in an unhealthy biological soil?
Of course. Because I don't think there's any soil that's unhealthy biological. I don't believe it. Not Central Illinois soil. Look, I've worked in pure sand and seen beautiful crops in pure sand. I've seen crops in hydroponics that have no soil. Any disagreement, put it on me, guys. My skin is thick right now. You can never criticize me more than I've been criticized before. When you start to get noticed by the pesticide companies and the other companies, they'll put political pressure to check on you. They're not going to allow us to grow the way we're growing and not do something to us. You can bet your life on it. I don't care. It comes with the territory. Somebody's going to jump on you if you try to do something. If you watch the movie Atlas Shrugs, you ought to look at it. It's beautiful about how the big guys are protected against the entrepreneurs. You'll love the movie. Yes.
It's a little easy to do business.
Yeah. The bigger you are, the more power you have.
Then, and the other side of that, I guess the question is, are you looking at more of a proactive approach or a reactive? You talk about scouting and treating for changes in environment, things like that. I call that more reactive versus a proactive, where you might do a seed treatment and start from zero.
Okay.
To try to protect
When you guys get the mentality of vegetable growers, you'll be proactive. Until then, you're going to be reactive.
Well, see, the universities, it's all reactive. You scout.
Of course.
Scout and treat.
Of course. That's how they make money.
And nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. You got to earn a living.
Question
Yes.
on temperature, when you apply products, like your mother shuts down when it gets real hot, the plant.
Excellent question. Early morning or late evening?
And then when you come back, is there that, they always said they use the rule of thumb of temperature and humidity, that equation, reaction.
Early morning or late evening. That's the time you want to spray. Early morning or late evening. They'll get it every time. Okay, until we present data to you, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Well, I'm telling you, we raise the same corn crop on 90 pounds of nitrogen with our treatments as we do with 212 pounds. If that shows you anything. I have a research guy at North Carolina State where they're putting on a seminar today in Elizabeth City. Last year, he used our treatments on drought-stricken corn. His control plots made 36 bushel per acre. Where he treated our plots, he made 118. Same water, same soil, same fertilizer. I don't want to tell you that until we get more data. But I can promise you, we don't need all the damn fertilizer you're using. And we certainly don't need all the rainfall that we think we need. I promise you that. I just can't give you the data yet to tell you that.
Well, I know that on soybean production because they keep talking the proverbial inch of rain a week will give you problems in soybeans that might not corn, but you sure get a good crop with a lot less. I know where to see that.
Look, guys, until you enjoy your Hagee that's air conditioned and put on your stereo music, enjoy riding that thing all day long and groove, then you're going to be able to treat your crops right. Okay? Because, yes.
And are you getting, or have you thought about, if you're going to be putting hormones on our crops, what the reaction will be to the activist groups who, for example, don't like hormones on our livestock?
Well, you see, with plant growth regulators, when we register with the EPA, we don't have to do water studies for that because their half-life is so short. They don't carry over into the food chain.
But most of those activist groups don't want to be confused with the facts.
Well,
The reaction.
I guess an alternative, let them starve to death for lack of food. But you see, the nice thing about plant growth regulators, the ones I work with, they're approved, we get them EPA approved, we don't need any fish or wildlife data, we don't need any residual data on fruit because they have a short half-life, maybe 7 to 10 days maximum. There's no re-entry time. They're easy to work with, guys. I'm not talking to you about something you need to be afraid of. I'm talking to you about something you need to understand. Now, we'll treat 10 million acres in Brazil this year with these products because Brazilian farmers want to learn. They want to be as good as Americans. You set the standard, they're trying to catch up. The difference is that they're putting in land that's poorer than your land in production. They don't have as much rainfall as you have in a lot of areas in the north. But they're willing to roll with the ice. Weather like this ain't going to stop them. They've seen weather like this every other year. Okay? Yes?
Have you gone far enough to see in the actual soybean what's produced as far as any increase in protein or oil content?
We have increased both protein and oil. The more sugars you can transfer, the more oil you'll get produced. Because oil is just a super carbohydrate concentration of sugars.
So you're saying on that foliar treatment, for discussion about adding sugars into your foliar treatments, brings up your Brix test and the plant.
Okay, sucrose, we've done work with sucrose, and sucrose can bring up Brix, but at a cost. Or you can buy all the molasses cheap enough to go out and spray your plants. Not with the price of molasses is feed, come on. It only lasts a short time. But molasses will help, yes. Sugars will help, yes.
How often are you going to have to treat the plants?
And we'll stress weather every week. If the weather is not so stressed, 10 to 14 days, more or less.
All right, our speaker has time for one more question before we head to our next thing.
Look, I want to thank you guys very much, okay? Yes.
When you talked about seed treatments, how are you getting that on the seed? Is it a commercial treater?
Yeah, a commercial treater puts it on when they put on the fungicides and inoculants. It has a long shelf life. It won't kill the inoculants. Okay? We have 90 days on our treatments down in Brazil. We've measured this. Look, I want to thank you all for your attention. I hope that we gained something from it, okay? Dan, you want to say something?